Okay, so we are at the oral language portion with listening comprehension and receptive vocabulary. Both of these were high averages for her, so these were a strength for her. So her listening comprehension and oral language was actually great. Her receptive vocabulary, she scored a 115. She was in the high average range, so she has a well-developed vocabulary knowledge. She has strong oral language abilities, and she has strong auditory comprehension skills as well. So overall, these were like great strengths for her. Her oral language, we saw no concerns. In fact, it was a strong point for her. So that was good. So there were a little bit of confusions between visually similar letters like B and D, P and Q for her. There was some inconsistent with letter naming and sound correspondence, as well as slow and effortful written alphabet production. They do provide additional evidence of weak orthographic and phonological automaticity, so it is consistent with dyslexia. Here you'll see there are some things in here from the Texas Dyslexia Handbook. There are required questions and direct responses. And so we include this and we go over it with the parents so that we can go through it and explain it in depth so that we know that they're for sure qualifying and eligible for dyslexia. And this comes from the Dyslexia Handbooks, which you will also have the link and you'll have a copy given to you as well. So on this one, it just asks, does the student demonstrate difficulties with accurate and or fluent word reading and spelling? Yes, she does demonstrate significant difficulties with accurate and fluent word reading and written expression. On her Wyatt, her reading score fell in the very low range, and her oral reading fluency fell in the extremely low range. Base rate analysis indicated that her reading rate and accuracy were unusually poor compared to her same age peers. Her written expression was also significantly impacted, with sentence composition falling in the extremely low range. The results do confirm persistent difficulty with word level reading and spelling related tasks. The second question that it asks is, does the student demonstrate deficits in phonological processing, such as phonological awareness, phonological memory, or that rapid naming? And the answer was yes. She does demonstrate significant deficits in phonological processing. That was measured by the CTOP 2. Phonological awareness composite performance fell in the very poor range, with weaknesses noted on the elision and phoneme isolation as well. Phonological memory was also significantly impaired, with memory for digits and non-word repetition falling in the very poor range. Her rapid symbolic naming skills were below average, indicating that she has that reduced efficiency in accessing the phonological information. The third question that it asks, are the students' reading difficulties unexpected in relation to other cognitive abilities in effective classroom instruction? Yes. Her reading difficulties are unexpected when compared to her cognitive abilities and oral language skills. On the WISC, she demonstrated average verbal reasoning abilities, and she additionally, on the Wyatt, she showed high average listening comprehension and receptive vocabulary that confirmed that her language comprehension skills exceeded her decoding and fluency abilities. So that discrepancy alone reflects that unexpected underachievement and is consistent with the dyslexia profile. Number 4, are there cognitive factors commonly associated with dyslexia that contribute to students' reading difficulties? Yes. The cognitive assessment results identified weaknesses commonly associated with dyslexia, including auditory, working memory, and processing speed. On the WISC, digit span performance fell in the very low range, indicating difficulty retaining and manipulating her auditory verbal information. Processing speed was consistently in the low range. And so overall, the cognitive weaknesses directly impact the phonological processing, decoding, reading fluency, and written expression. Number 5, are the student's difficulties primarily the result of exclusionary factors? This is like visual and hearing impairment, intellectual disability, and emotional disturbance, cultural, linguistic differences, things like that. And so, as we had talked about before, from parent interviews, teacher input, and her sociological behavioral information that you guys have provided, the students' reading difficulties are not primarily the result of any of exclusionary factors. She does have average cognitive ability, just strong oral language skills. There's no sensory impairments. Intellectual disability was not questioned. She does not have an emotional disturbance, even though she's sensitive sometimes. She doesn't have an emotional disturbance, and there's no cultural linguistic differences. So her exclusionary factors were ruled out. Number 6 asked, does the student demonstrate secondary consequences commonly associated with dyslexia? Yes, the student does demonstrate secondary consequences commonly associated with dyslexia, including severely reduced reading fluency, difficulty completing her written assignments, challenges performing grade level academic tasks independently. So overall, particularly during reading and writing, it is a struggle for her, as well as when she's having to complete time to task. Number 7, in the final question, it asked, based on multiple sources of data, does this student meet criteria for dyslexia as defined by the Texas Dyslexia Handbook? Yes. Based on the evaluation data, including the cognitive assessment, which was her WISC, phonological processing assessment, which was the CTOP 2, and academic achievement testing, which was her WIAT, informal dyslexia measures and classroom performance, as well as her present levels. She does meet the criteria for dyslexia as defined by the Texas Dyslexia Handbook. She does demonstrate significant phonological processing deficits, related cognitive weaknesses, and unexpected underachievement in word level reading and reading fluency. So based on the comprehensive evaluation that she had and all required criteria, she does meet the definition of criteria for dyslexia. So that does, as you were saying, your concerns, that validates your feelings again, just to know that. And so those struggles that you're seeing and things like that, it obviously is now all kind of, making sense. And so hopefully we can get her on the right track and reduce some of y'all's frustration. I know it's been a long road. Do you have any questions or any input or concerns that you would like to add right now? Or does any of the other staff, do you guys have anything you would like to add? Okay. Okay. All right, so now we're at the portion where we're just going to kind of summarize everything that we've talked about today, and we will just kind of go in. I'll just do it in a chunk, and then we'll talk about her assistive technology and things like that. But after I read just basically her evaluation summary, you can, if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm going to stop and see if you have any input or anything, or if you fully understand. Okay, so she was administered a comprehensive evaluation to examine her cognitive functioning, her processing abilities, and academic achievement. Her results from the WISC indicate average verbal reasoning abilities, reflecting adequate cognitive potential for learning for her, which is great because she's such a smart girl. However, her cognitive profile is highly uneven, with significant weaknesses in auditory working memory and processing speed. She demonstrated very low auditory working memory, as evidenced by poor performance on her digit span. It indicated difficulty retaining and manipulating numerical and verbal information. Additionally, her processing speed measures revealed that it was consistently low performance. suggesting that reduced efficiency is there when she's completing tasks that require those rapid visual scanning skills, symbol discrimination, and sustained attention. On the Wyatt, her mathematic standard score was 66. It falls in the extremely low range, which indicates severe difficulty acquiring and applying grade level math skills. It is significantly below expectations given her cognitive abilities and strong oral language skills. So the combination of the extremely low math achievement and documented processing weaknesses in working memory and processing speed demonstrates a clear relationship between the cognitive processing deficits that she's experiencing and her math performance. So a lot of times when she is just, I'm done, I'm tired of struggling, we're kind of putting those pieces together and we're seeing that that's why, because she's having trouble with her processing speed. These weaknesses do interfere with her ability to retain her math facts, follow multi-step procedures or problem solving, and perform calculations accurately and complete her math task efficiently. She does require that one-on-one, and she actually prefers it. We've talked about that multiple times. So that is some of the reason why she feels more engaged and eager to learn. She just feels more successful on that one-on-one. Overall, the evaluation data supported a pattern of strengths and weaknesses that is consistent with the specific learning disability in math. She presents with a pattern of cognitive and academic functioning characterized by average reasoning and strong oral language abilities. And she contrasted with several severe weaknesses in mathematics achievement. Her extremely low performance in mathematics is unexpected in light of her overall cognitive potential. The documented weaknesses in working memory and processing speed are directly related to the acquisition and fluent use of her math skills that she has, which she does have, because we see those every day. Like I said, she still continues to try. She's still putting forth her effort. She's still demonstrating the math skills that she has. It's just taking her a little more effort, which is causing that frustration. The processing deficits that she's experiencing with her processing speed, it does have a negative impact on her ability to hold that numerical information in mind during problem solving, as well as accurately complete those multi-step procedures, recall her math facts sufficiently, work with typical classroom time constraints, which we've talked about. That was one thing that she really struggled with, was having to complete her assignments in a timed manner. Her math difficulties are persistent and significant, and they cannot be attributed to lack of instruction or emotional disability or intellectual disability or anything like that. All those exclusionary factors do not come into play for her. So based on the comprehensive review of cognitive processing and academic data, she does meet eligibility criteria for a specific learning disability in mathematics. Her math achievement is significantly below age and grade expectations, and it is unexpected given her great cognitive abilities. It's directly linked to her identified processing weakness that we've discussed. So, did you have any questions about any of that as far as her SLD and what that means? And I always like to tell parents you're going to see SLD a lot, and it's just the abbreviation that we use for a specific learning disability. And so when you see that, that's all that means, is that it is a specific learning disability. It's just an eligibility in which she qualified for mathematics. Do you have any questions about that? Okay. The need for assistive technology was assessed using informal measures. Overall, we did not feel that she showed an area of need for assistive technology. She can pretty much do everything she needs without assistance or help. These are just things like communication devices, mobility devices, physical and recreation, things like that, mobility, listening, just those kind of things. So overall, she's able to function well on her own, and we saw that with that adaptive behavior above as well. So no areas of concern there, and we didn't feel that it was noted. So overall, she demonstrates significant educational and developmental deficits in the areas of dyslexia and basic reading skills and reading fluency. She does not demonstrate significant emotional or behavioral deficits. She does have a specific learning disability in reading with characteristics of dyslexia as well as the condition of dyslexia and mathematics. So overall, her eligibility criteria will be a specific learning disability in the areas of dyslexia, basic reading skills, reading fluency, math problem solving, and math calculation. She also meets as a student with a speech impairment in the areas of articulation. So her primary will be her specific learning disability, and her secondary eligibility will be her speech impairment in that area of articulation. And that was like with the lisp and things that we had talked about with the speech therapist. So I have included her impact statement, and I've also included her recommended accommodations. So we're at the portion of her accommodations. For reading, it's aligned to her PLAF needs as far as like her decoding. Her PLAF is just her present levels right now is what that stands for. And so she has text read aloud to her for instructional materials and assignments, except when decoding skills are being assessed. She has access to audiobooks and digital text, preview of key vocabulary prior to her reading, reduced reading load without reducing her instructional content, written expression accommodations. She has use of sentence frames and graphic organizers, reduced copying demands. So if there's just a ton of notes up there on the board and she's just really struggling to, translate that, we can help her with that. She's allowed oral responses or dictated responses when appropriate, so that will also be at the teacher's discretion. Access to spelling aids and word banks. For math, for her accommodations, she has use of visual models and manipulatives, which she's already doing. She's already been using. She does really well with the manipulatives and the visual models. She has step-by-step problem-solving guides, access to math fact reference sheets, so that will just be on her desk. She has, for her processing and workload, she has extended time for classwork to help her with that time restraint and her feeling like she needs that extra time, and for her processing speed, that's really going to be beneficial for her. She also has chunking of assignments into smaller manageable components so that she's not having to use that short-term memory and trying to complete all of these at one time. We can break it down for her into smaller manageable sections. She has reduced time tasks and frequent breaks during independent work as she feels necessary. For testing accommodations such as STAR and just her interims, things like that she's going to be doing, her benchmarks. For her reading and writing assessments, she has text read aloud for assessments except when decoding skills or the construct being measured. She has extended time, reduced test length when appropriate for her without reducing the rigor, because like we noted before, we still want her to be exposed to that higher level thinking, and we don't want her to be, we don't want to see her fall behind. We want to see her excel. And so the point of this is for us to give her the tools to excel and to be better and to be more confident in her academics, right? So we don't want to reduce her rigor. We just want to give her the tools to be more successful in it, because she's definitely capable. She's allowed oral dictated responses when appropriate. She has mathematical assessment on her mathematics assessments. She has extended time. And she has small group or individual testing as well, if they feel necessary. You can read aloud the math directions and word problems when appropriate, and the use of manipulatives and approved reference tools. She also gets frequent breaks during testing to reduce her cognitive fatigue. As always, these are just recommendations. So overall, we're recommending that she qualifies with a specific learning disability, and she also qualifies with a speech impairment in the areas of articulation. Of course, this is all up to the ARD committee, and you as well, you're part of our ARD committee. So, Mom, do you agree with the recommendations and the plan that has been placed forth in the documents? Okay, great. Okay, so I will read assurances, and we'll go through assurances, and we will also get signatures. We have to get signatures. And would you like to go ahead and waive your 5 days and go ahead and put this plan into place now? Basically, this would just put her new goals and her new plan in place today instead of having to wait the 5 days. The 5 days is there for you to think about it. So if you need to think about it, that's completely okay too. Okay, we can go ahead and waive those 5 days, and I'm just going to get everyone to sign. And Mom, I'll get you to sign. And we also have to sign the prior written notice and that you received your procedural safeguards as well. Okay. Awesome. And I know we asked that at the beginning if you receive your procedural safeguards, but just wanted to make sure before we sign that you for sure have them. So that's that copy. Yes, ma'am. Okay, well, thank you so much.